Hey everyone, it's Field Shot back in another video, and today we're going to be doing something a little more fun. I'm going to be going over the top 10 characters in the entire game, but this is not actually decided by me, it's decided by you all. I ran a survey, about over 100 responses back, and you all decided what your top 10 characters were in PvE across the whole game. We're going to be going over the whole list step by step, and I'm going to release them over the time of the video. I'm going to go ahead and dissect whether or not I think they should be higher, lower, or even on the list in general, and I'll give you my top 10 at the very end of the video for PvE. That is, also I have the 5 giveaway winners here. That's going to be Dave Stewart, Jorge Herrera, Al Shurjev, Static Echo 92, and Aval Night Road. So those are the 5 winners. If you do want your code, be sure to join the Discord in the description down below. Send me a message, let me know that you won the code, and I'll send you over the codes. But that being said, we're going to jump into the top 10 and see what everyone thinks the best characters in the game are. Let's go for it. Alright, so we're going to be going over the top 10 as I mentioned. This is not a particularly specific group like endgame, mid-game, late game, or whatever it is. It's all general, so just keep that in mind. I thought it'd be more fun just to see what the community thinks about the top 10 characters. We're going to start off with some honorable mentions. I'm also going to mention how many votes actually each character got. And there was about 110 responses in total. And so the results were actually a little surprising to me because there's some characters I disagree with, some characters I completely agree with. But we're going to go over some honorable mentions first. I'm going to start off with the number 15 pick, and that is Lunar Melisa coming in with 21 votes. And then we have number 14, Mythasia with 30 votes. Number 13, Antinua with 30 votes. We have a tie with Antinua and Mythasia. And then we have number 12 with Winstrex at 42 votes. And then we have number 11, Ciara, with 49 votes. So first thing that shouts out to me on the honorable mentions real quick is Ciara is not in the top 10. I definitely disagree with this. I think Ciara is definitely in the top 10 and outclasses one other character I specifically think on this list. And also Winstrex, I think, could be useful or could be argued in the top 10 because of how much she provides, especially for those earlier game players who doesn't have all the gear to get all that speed on your units. And of course, Antinua, one of the best single target damage dealers in the game. Mythasia, one of the most annoying characters, one of the best supports and only revivers in the game. And then Lunar Melisa, very up and coming with the recent Void Tower changes. People are using her all the time in some burst comps. So I just wanted to go briefly over the honorable mentions and some characters that were missing out of the top 10. But we're going to jump into the number 10 through 8, so the bottom 3 of the top 10 list. So we're going to come in at number 10 is going to be Blackhorn with 53 votes. Number 9 is going to be William with 54 votes. And then number 8 is going to be Valeria with 54 votes as well. So Valeria and William are at a tie here. And honestly, I'm not surprised to see any of these 3 on the top 10 list. I think Valeria is one of the best AoE damage dealers in general in the game because of that extra turn she's getting on her ultimate. Just a massive AoE damage. The only, or at least you can kind of compare it to Cyrus, one of the only fire DPS units that I'd recommend people build. Very good damage dealer, can carry you through so many different areas of the game, and definitely worthy of a top 10 spot in my opinion. Number 9 at William. I think William definitely earned a spot here as well. Although I think that it could be argued that he could be in the honorable mentions type area because he kind of falls off after you use him a lot in the early game. Now, a lot of times you can actually run him in speed comps, but he can actually be replaced by the Ice Wolf for faster times. So because of that, I think that he could be argued for off the list later on in the game, but certainly earlier on in the game, you could just build out a William. He'll fit in your speed comps, he'll fit in your campaign squad, in your Void Tower, in your Endless Trials, all those different areas of the game. Super good. Having one of the only characters that has a counterattack buff on your whole squad and AoE defense down is just an amazing support kit, as well as increasing the basic damage of your characters, or at least your whole team's abilities. Next up, and then number 10 at Blackhorn. This one, again, I think very surprising that he's actually at number 10. I think that he could be significantly higher on this list, maybe at a 5 and 6 area, especially considering one of the other characters we're going to go over in just a second. Number 10 at Blackhorn surprises me because he is the best healer in the entire game, and honestly is used in so many different comps. He can be used in that Void Tower tank / bruiser comp. in almost every dungeon. You're going to be running him if you have him. Queen, Tulpa, Ashe, Witch, Gemini, all 5 of the dungeons he'll be used in. So I think he's definitely arguable for much higher on the list because he's just an amazing support unit and definitely someone that everyone should be happy to pull if you end up pulling him. So that's going to be number 10, 9, and 8. We're going to move on to the top, or the middling 3, which is the 7, 6, and 5th position. At number 7, we have Santis coming in at 62 votes. At number 6, we have Zatlix coming in at 64 votes. And number 5, we have Evra coming in at 65 votes. So this is the part that I disagree with the most, to be honest. I very much disagree with Zatlix being in the top 10 at all. I do not think Zatlix is worthy of a top 10. I think this is a very early game skewed perspective, which is completely fair, obviously, because he is an absolute early game carry. He does unlock speed comps in Queen for you, and if you have really good gear, you can run him in Witch or Tulpa as a speed wave clearer. And he's decent in Void Tower in the earlier stages, so he can clear out those waves. Once you reach about stage 60, stage 70, Zatlix is very difficult to get to clear out those waves. So he starts to fall off significantly because you're not going to be actually killing people off with his ultimate. And he's just honestly not going to provide much in regards to that. So he just doesn't fit the bill, in my opinion. I think Valeria should be way above Zatlix, or at least above Zatlix. And I think Ciara should be on the list over Zatlix. I think Winstrix, Antinua, all these characters have much more use than Zatlix in those specific spots. Maybe not Antinua, but definitely Winstrix, Ciara, or Valeria, in my opinion. Now, Santis at number 7 is also a little surprising as well. I think she could be much higher on this list as well, simply because she's going to be used in every single dungeon comp. Literally every single dungeon, she's going to be one of the best characters to speedrun it. If you have Gangelo, even if you don't have Gangelo, she's one of the only characters that can be in the Ice Wolf comp, one of the only Ash 12 speed comps that's actually achievable by most players. And then we have in Queen, she's one of the earlier game units that I build out to speed up your runs, as well as one of the early game comps. Tulpa, Witch, Gemini, so many great places for Santis. Surprised she's at number 7. Obviously, this is a PvE list, so dungeons are rated very highly, as well as Void Tower. And then Evra coming in at number 5. I kind of agree with this position. I think number 5 is a good space for her because she is one of the, or at least the biggest AoE damage dealer in the game, or the highest damage dealing multipliers at least. And hitting twice oftentimes can provide a little bit of extra bonuses for some characters. Really good Avarice set user, and overall just an amazing damage dealer, and definitely worthy of the top 10 in my opinion. Next up, we're going to go over the number 4, 3, and 2 slots, and I'll need number 1 for the very last. Number 4, we have Gangelo coming in at 70 votes. Number 3, we have Nathalia coming in at 74 votes. And number 2, we have Brand coming in at 75 votes. So the top 3 is very close in regards to votes. And I think the top 3 can really be any of these 3 characters, which we'll go over number 1 in just a second. But number 4 is going to be Gangelo at 70 votes, as I mentioned. And honestly, I think this is a good slot for him. I don't think he should be number 1 through 3 necessarily. Maybe number 3 I could see, but Gangelo is more of like a win more type character, in my opinion. If you have Gangelo, he's going to get speedruns unlocked. He's going to make everything easier and just give you basically a cakewalk throughout most of PvE content, even in Void Tower. But that being said, he's not going to unlock anything for you unless you're talking about Gemini Dragon, which that is a very good component of why Gangelo is so good. But with Gemini, you don't really necessarily need to run it in order to complete all the PvE content in the game, which is why I don't necessarily rate that super highly. But he is one of the only options to complete Gemini, so that is a huge bonus to Gangelo. And definitely an amazing character. Unlocks all those speed comps and just makes your whole life easier if you have Gangelo. Number 3 with Nathalia. I think Nathalia, this is absolutely correct. I think Nathalia should be the highest rated damage dealer in the game. She is one of the only ways to run Ash 12, and the only way to run Ash 12 really efficiently, in my opinion, with the Ice Wolf comp, or the Zitlin comp, which you'll need Ciara and Nathalia. So very solid damage dealer. Just amazing AoE damage. Definitely an amazing character in Void Tower, and an Endless Trail. She's one of the most biggest damage dealing characters in the game. And just overall, just an amazing damage dealer, and pairs really well with number 2 slot here, Brand. Brand plus Nathalia is used so often in Void Tower. One of the easiest ways to get through Void Tower if you have Brand and Nathalia. And I'm not surprised that Brand comes in at number 2. Now, a lot of people could see this and say, well, Brand isn't really used in too many dungeons. And I would agree with you. You could use him in Tulpa. If you speed tune it correctly, you can use him in Ash. That's honestly a big hassle. Really, this comes in with Void Tower. I rate Void Tower very, very highly, and it appears a lot of other people do as well. Campaign is also a minor consideration when you're talking about all of these characters, especially when you're talking about like Valyria, Zatlix, Evra, and Nathalia. These damage dealers are very, very good in campaign. But Brand, just an amazing, amazing character to provide so much for you in Void Tower Hard. The thing with Brand is that because he's one of the few characters, I think the only character that offers attack up 2 on the AoE, or at least on your whole squad, you're going to allow your units to run speed boots, your damage dealers to run speed boots, which means that you can run all your characters over 169 speed so that they're all going before the waves in Void Tower Hard. And this is why Brand is so good. He makes Void Tower Hard, at least the time that you need to take to clear Void Tower Hard, significantly lower. And that's a huge consideration because a lot of people, including myself, don't necessarily have all the time in the world to just grind out Void Tower Hard. And I have a lot of time to play this game on stream and things like that. So Brand, definitely, I like to see at number 2 slot. Just an amazing, amazing character. And Void Tower Hard is very, very highly rated. One of the easiest ways to beat it is with Brand. And then number 1 slot, and I'm going to just pause for a second. Let me know in the comments down below what you think the number 1 slot is. I'm sure many of you can guess it based on the characters we've already gone through. Number 1 is going to be Hakron at 76 votes. I think this is an absolutely deserved spot at number 1. I think that he just makes all PvE content very trivialized comparatively to if you didn't have him. If we didn't have Hakron, the Queen comp would be significantly harder to build and much, much later on in the game. Any of you who have tried to build a Queen 12 comp without Hakron knows the struggle on how much higher the gear requirement must be. And even if you just watch some other videos where I put in Hakron versus taking him out, you could just see how much damage, extra damage we're taking because of that sharing defense passive. He's just an absolute monster in PvE content, literally used and can be used in every single dungeon, and very preferred to use in Queen, in Tulpa, in Gemini, in Witch. He starts to fall off if you start getting some speed teams. You can start replacing him, but I think the amount of content he unlocks earlier on deserves the number 1 spot. He definitely earned it with how much he's providing for the progression in regards to any PvE content in the game. And if you decide to run a tank / bruiser comp, he's an absolute staple in Void Tower Hard. I myself am on stage 89 and have used the tank comp pretty much all the way through except for stage 60, and Hakron has been an absolute mainstay in that comp as well. He's just an absolute carry for your whole squad in general. So that pretty much wraps up the number 10 or the top 10 list. And I'm going to be going over my top 10 in just a second here. But honestly, overall, pretty decent list for the players or the community's perspective. I think there's a couple things I would change, obviously. I think Zatlix is definitely out of the top 10, for sure. Not even in the top 15, in my opinion. Maybe you could, put him in the top 15 and then honorable mentions right in front of Antinua. But I could see him being argued off the top 15 in general. Another one is, I think, Blackthorn and Sanda should be much higher up, and I think the rest of it is pretty solid. So let's go ahead and jump into my top 10 list. All right, so I'm going to leave all the other portraits up on the screen here, and I'm going to just briefly go over my top 10 list. So my number 10 pick is going to be Winstrex. Number 9 is Ciara. Number 8 is Valyria. Number 7 is Evra. As you can see, I've grouped kind of the damage dealers together. I feel like they all serve a similar purpose and all very, very good. I think that Evra and Valyria kind of take the cake for me personally. I find that using Evra and Valyria make Void Tower much harder than using someone like Ciara. That being said, they're all very, very equivalent to very, very good. But I think Evra and Valyria just edge it out a little bit more, in my opinion. Then it's going to be Sandis and Gengallo, the poison duo at 6 and 5. Number 4 is going to be Brand. Number 3 is actually going to be Blackhorn. Number 2 is going to be Hakron. And number 1 is going to be Nathalia. So I know many of you would probably be surprised for me to put number 1 as Nathalia, or maybe you're not. I think Nathalia is absolutely crucial. Unlike Gengallo, where you need Gengallo to finish Gemini, and Gemini is not that important to complete PvE content, Ashe is very, very important to complete PvE content, and Nathalia being one of the only characters that can actually complete it gives her significant bonus points, in my opinion. as well as being the overall just best damage dealer in the game. Just massive damage. And as I said, pairs very, very well with someone like Brand, who's at the number 4 slot. I think Brand is not necessarily a number 2 character, although I could see the argument for him because he's really only good for Void Tower Hard and campaign in general for the PvE content. And then Blackhorn at number 3, I think this just makes 100% sense. If you're going to put Hackern at number 2, I think Blackhorn is a number 3 character. Oftentimes, you're going to pair them together for your initial comps, and even later on, you can still be using Blackhorn. It's just an amazing, amazing healer. Gangelo and Santis, I think Santis you could even put above Gangelo oftentimes because Santis is just going to allow you to get all that extra comp unlocks earlier on, as well as just applying so many poisons. Gangelo, I put above Santis just because he unlocks all those speed comps and is just a massive carry, especially with that Gemini unlock. Evra, Valyria, and Ciara already went over, but the damage dealers are grouped together. I think they're very, very important. And at number 10, Windstrex over William. I think Windstrex is going to be used over William oftentimes for many, many players, including myself. I oftentimes will use Windstrex all the time because I don't have a brand or anything like that. And then William comes in potentially in a slot later on. Now, I think that Tia should be definitely in an honorable mention here at 11 through 15 because of how good she is in Void Tower Hard for some of the comps. Now, granted, this top 10 characters is for the month of March, so this can absolutely be changed over the course of the next couple months based on how Void Tower changes. Absolutely. But I think Tia can be coming in at an honorable mention, as well as people like William, people like Zatlux, Antinua, Mythasia, those types of characters often enter the honorable mentions for me. And I think Lunar Melisa also fits in there as well. So that's going to be my top 10 and some of the honorable mentions for me. And then the community's voted top 10 list. Obviously, this is more of a fun type video. It's not exactly the specific scientific method of conducting a survey like this. It was more fun just to see what the general community opinion is. I plan on doing this every month just to give you an updated list, see if there's any new characters that break into the top 10, because all these 10 characters have been in the game since the soft launch has started, and Blackhorn and some of them have gotten a bunch of buffs, Evra as well. But I'm interested to see if, potentially later on, if Garel, if Boolin, if those types of characters, Akubi, Silent, can break into the top 10, or any future characters can break into the top 10 based on the community opinion. So let me know if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more of these monthly type videos. And if you want to see the PvP version of this video, make sure to let me know by dropping the comments down below, and I will see you for the next one.